Welcome back to Wedlocked and Loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.
You women.
Do not lump us all in one category.
So you girls, and lie and stretch the truth
You
and try
girls,
to get us jammed up.
First of all, I'm a whole ass woman, right? Think about
No
that.
disrespect.
Sounds like it to me. So why can't y'all? What is it with men that they just can't walk away?
Depends how good it is. You don't want to give that away.
Greetings, everyone. New episode of Wedlocked and Loaded. I am your host, Daniel Laurent.
And I am Leah Nicole.
And we're going to skip all the pleasantries because Leah was getting ready to lay into me. Do you remember what she was going to say? Of course not. All right. So.
Wow.
Do you remember, yes or no?
Yo, you better relax, dog. You gotta relax. You have to relax. Part of what I was going to say, but here's the thing, it's going to be no real context, right? But part of what I was going to say for the people listening, and you may have forgotten where we were at and what we were talking about in regards to what I'm about to say. But anyway, what I noticed with you is that most things, I won't say everything, most things are very cut and dry, right? You know, people say black and white, whatever. And there are a lot of gray areas in some of the things that we talk about. And what we were talking about is one of them. And so, you know, you were referring to some of the people that are stuck in Dubai with no means of getting back home, right? No help from the embassy, because, you know, partially they probably can't help at the moment. You know, and you referenced, you know, people not watching, you know, staying on top of, you know, worldly news and what's happening. And that may be so, right? But people could have, I mean, I don't know. I feel like
you don't. So I think your comment, you have said this to me before.
You're yelling a little bit to me.
Leah.
It sounds like you're yelling. Go ahead.
Well,
my
we're
comment.
not laying down in our
My
bed
comment.
talking and
But you don't gotta
rubbing each
shout.
other's
My
feet.
comment.
Your comment to me, I hear that and I receive it. You have said it before, and I know that you believe that. I actually, ironically, feel like I live in more gray, which is partially why I get myself into either spirited debates or trouble or any of the things.
Yeah, you live in gray when it's convenient for you.
No, it's not convenient, Leah.
Of course, but go ahead.
I have it's principles. I don't often try to. I'm intentional about trying to not move the goalposts. So the example that I gave when we was just at our family's house, right? And I'll go back to the Dubai thing, but the conversation that I had when I said, you know, stealing from a big box store and stealing from, you know, a friend's house that left their wallet on a dresser, to me is two totally different things. But to a person that doesn't steal at all, they would just feel they're both wrong. For me, I see the nuance in that. I see the gray in that. For me, if you are cheating on your spouse and going and get a hotel room versus bringing a person home in the bed that you sleep in with your spouse, it's two separate things. To a person, yes, you can clearly say that cheating is wrong, period. For me, I see the gray in that. I think that there's two different levels of like the way I see things and the way I practice. And so I will say my tolerance of a lot of different things today is different than it was a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I'm not for bullshit. And I'm not for symbolism, tokenism, or just doing shit just because. I'm leaning into very more purposeful acts that I want to entertain and spend my time with. So going to a nearby bar to celebrate my birthday with a bunch of strangers, I'm not interested in at all. I would much rather be just you and I, or me, you and the kids, or amongst friends having a game night for me. But I also realize that there are people that want to be at a club and have their face on flyers and have a bunch of strangers. Like that's fine for them. I'm not interested in that. So I see more gray than I feel like you give me credit for, but I don't necessarily need the credit from you on that regards. As far as the Dubai thing, part of me was being facetious when I said it, and I'm, whatever. But for people who do not keep up on any sort of world news and they're just, you know, they're seeing people die left and right and they want to just turn up and have a great time, and you know that you got 60 days of vacation, and oh, I've been hearing about the Dubai shit. Let's go to Dubai, yo. And you fucking walk into the worst time ever is just interesting to me. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's unfortunate because,
And
sometimes people
I'll
just
say
can't
this.
deal with news and it's heavy. You need to figure, like right now, for me,
Absolutely.
is not a great time to travel abroad right
Listen,
now.
listen.
But I know that people are going to do what they're going to do. God bless you.
I hear you, right? I hear you. And so, yeah, it's one thing if, you were hearing about whatever was possibly going to happen. First of all, you were hearing about possibly what was going to happen days before you left, right? But also thinking like, nah, this this ain't gonna fly. This can't happen.
Who
And
says that?
so and
You're saying
so
the person
I'm
saying that?
saying it could be just a thought. Or I say you're already there. You've been there for X amount of days and you just happen to be unable to get a flight out because you just missed the ball,
Yeah,
right?
that's different.
And you
That's a
but
little bit of
but
grace, I guess.
we don't know all the circumstances, and you're just assuming that the folks said, hey, let's flights to Dubai right now are cheap. Now I did that during COVID, but I didn't go nowhere.
Exactly, Leah. That's exactly what I was gonna say. So while the world was shut down, are we gonna act like people did not literally go on and see that there were flights for fucking $80? Are we gonna
I'm
are we
gonna tell
gonna
you,
are we
I'm
gonna
not
say
gonna.
that didn't happen?
Absolutely not, because
So
I was
you
looking.
looked and looked, right? And maybe if I wasn't around, and whether I have any say so or not, maybe if I wasn't around and you didn't have to hear my mouth, maybe you would have just done whatever, right? But you also know how I stood on that and the time in which I felt like we need to sit down for right now. You know how staunch I was on that. Again, I don't know if that dictated anything or not.
No,
But
it
there
didn't.
were people. What? What'd you say?
A what now?
You're
I said,
fucking. So
I said it didn't.
there are people that did the research like you and said, yeah, you know what? I got all this time. Boom, let me pull the trigger. And they did it. And God bless you. It is
And
what
they
it
had
is.
an amazing time.
It
I
is
didn't.
what it is.
It is, and you know what? I could have seen a lot of the world, and that it's not a serious regret, but it is a regret, right? It's a partial regret, I'll say, and it's because now I can't go, right? Like I can't get there. I won't be getting there anytime. I still won't be getting there anytime
I
soon.
think we all can.
But also, I'll say the fear of what COVID was looking like at the time, and granted, it wasn't so widespread, but we knew that people were getting sick, and we knew that we were pretty much shut. A lot of things were shut down. Um, but that's what had a hold on me. It was just like, oh, I don't want to be sick. I'm scared of what this looks like. You know. Um, but anyway, I still feel like I feel, and
Feel like you feel about
just
me
in
with
terms of
black and
like
white.
some the scale can be gray when it's convenient for you, and
Do
you
you have
know
any examples, Leah? Or are you just
so
saying
I'll
that?
give you an example,
Yeah.
right? And like, yes, you can see, you can understand both sides when so let's talk about coming from um stealing from a big box store versus stealing from
Why you say it like that?
somebody. I don't know what just happened there, but it happened, and thanks for pointing it out, because people probably wasn't even gonna notice.
People definitely would have.
Anyway,
okay.
Anyway,
Pull it up, selector. Pull it up, selector.
I can see how you see the gray in that, right? And so, and I'll say why. You've known people that stolen from stores, right? Be it when they were young or whenever, right? You've also known people who have stolen from people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for you, you understand that both are not necessarily the right thing to do because you're putting your hands on stuff that don't belong to you. However, you find the gray in the people that can take from the store because in your mind there's a certain amount of
Shrinkage.
preparedness that they have for said thing versus doing it from a person is obviously very personal and quite fucked up. But because you have
I see. I mean, you're saying is because there is attachment or relatability to it. But I feel there's things that I don't have attachment or relatability towards, and we can go down a list of things.
I think the things
right,
that
like we can, there's I think with me more so, like something like I think I lived more in gray than I'm so to your point I think I've become much more it's right or wrong, in the percentages of that it might be 60-40 or 70-30, 30 being the gray, right? And there was a time where I think it might have been 50-40, 50 being the gray.
50-40?
Oh, 50, shit. Damn, crazy. 50-50. In my head I'm thinking 60, but I said 50.
Okay.
But I think it's just it's certain things, and I think part of that is coming from me, the conversation that I had yesterday, and that you heard when we were in a car about me. Shape shifting is the wrong word, but that's just the thing I'm thinking about. But I'm changing.
You're growing. And
it's growing, but it's just it's keeping my heart, but just navigating how it appears. Where I think a lot of people, sadly, the way that they were as a kid or as a teenager, they've completely done away with, because the world forces you to be hard. The world forces you to, do shit and compromise yourself or step on others to like I'm just not gonna be that way, right? And it's a fight to not be that way.
But
and
I think
like if we go to dinner with a group of people and it's 7 of us and one person is ordering scorpion bowls and lobster tails and all that shit, and then the bill comes, for me, I shouldn't even have to say anything. That person that's been going crazy should know that they have to put in more. You are making it awkward for all of us to get a bill, and a person that ordered a Caesar salad and a lemon drop now has to put in, $120. You're making it weird. And so the way I think, this is the black and white. This is the right or wrong. That should not happen. That should not happen. If I'm giving you a ride to work every single day, and I'm picking you up and I'm waiting for you to send your kids off to school and all those things, you should, without me mentioning or alluding or anything else, you should offer, hey, here's some money for gas. Oh, hey, go to the gas station. Let me fill up your tank. And let me say, Don't worry about it.
Right. And so
You're making it weird by not doing that.
what I also say to that is that what you're referring to right now is basic common courtesy, right? And some people lack it, right?
More than some.
I'm gonna say some people lack it.
What's your percentage?
It doesn't matter. There is a sum of people that lack it.
Sure.
That's it.
Pull it up, selector. Pull it up, selector.
There it goes again. Won't you? It's cute. That's why I'm picking at it, but it's fine.
Anyway, so I did not some real research, but just a little. You know what I mean? Because I'll say this. We had a conversation about what's going on in the world right now, and I can't say that I have ever been worried, so to speak, felt scared, or whatever term you want to use, right, in regards to this. But I'm like, why is there, some anxiety surrounding this right now, this war right now? Why do I feel a little scared? Why do I feel uncertain? You know what I mean? Of like what is to come, you know? And, so like I kind of questioned, I'm like, dang, clearly there's been wars since, I was born and growing up. But I've never felt this way before, you know? And so I just kind of looked up to see like, how many wars were there, for a person my age during how many wars were there for a person my age in the US, or that that the US was a part of. And it gave me a breakdown of major conflicts, because that's what they call it, not war, from 1981 till 2026, right? Oddly enough, that one's not on here right now, which is very interesting. And so there were 7, but then I'm looking back and I'm like, what? Like the war in Afghanistan, that started in 2001, that joint lasted 20 years.
Yeah.
I just
Afghanistan, does it say who was president? Was that Bush? I believe so.
Operation Enduring Freedom's Centennial. It doesn't say. It doesn't say, I can probably get that information if I like dig a little bit deeper, but it doesn't say. And then the Iraq war, that lasted 8 years. That was from 2003 to 2011. And it's like, what? Like, I don't know. It's crazy. And so when I think of that, I'm like, during that time,
that was Bush.
Bush was the 2003.
Yeah.
Between 2003 2011. So he was the Iraq war. And so
George Dub.
And so when I think of that, like, I don't know, it's very interesting. But the time frame of 2003 2011, in that time frame, like, we legit had 2 children. But it's just like when you, I mean, I don't know. I'm tired of saying I don't know, but I don't know. But I don't, it doesn't feel.
Well, I think,
right, like the uncertainty, the anxiety, it didn't feel like this. And I don't know if it has anything to do with, a whole bunch of things being dismantled and,
it's
on top of this, but like it just feels crazy.
I think, and this is an interesting subject because it goes with something that I wanted to get into, and then we'll transition out of it. But I feel like this is perfect. But it's interesting because you didn't know what my first topic was. Huh. I think the difference with this is I'll put a brief pin in that. The amount of people who are making excuses and moving the goalposts for things that are happening is very interesting, because if it happened in their lives, they would not be so forgiving of it. If you're having heart problems, you don't go to the mechanic, or you don't go to the bodega and get, a Slim Jim,
No, I would hope you
right?
get an aspirin, but
If you need a cavity filled, you don't go to an orthopedic surgeon. And so we kind of know these things, and we defer to the experts. If you want to have a conversation about history, you go to a historical expert. You don't necessarily go to a comic book illustrator. And so all the things that we know, and all the things that we have bought into, quote unquote, it doesn't apply when it comes to the people who are running the country. And so with Bush, with Clinton, with Obama, with all these different people that had their terms, there were a million things that can be critiqued or can be dissected, and they should have been done differently, and people can protest and all these things. I think the one sound difference is there were people who were experts in those rooms, and whether they listened to those folks or not, they were at least there to offer some pushback and an alternative point of view. I am not bold enough to feel like I can run the country. What the fuck do I know? And so, but what I do have is empathy. What I do have is, wow, this decision I'm making is going to affect not only, little Daniel in Boston, but it's also going to affect, Joshua in Wyoming. I have that. Some people don't. Right? Now, can you lead with empathy? I feel like you can. Can you do business? Can you practice compassionate capitalism? I feel like you can. Some people disagree and they feel like that's an oxymoron. That's a debate for a different day. But I think the thing that's different this time is all the guardrails that, even if they didn't serve us, especially as Black folks, it's just now it's like fucking anarchy, and we're watching like The Purge, and it just feels different. And I think for anyone, and I can understand the argument of people who, lived through all the different presidents, and they're like, oh, you know what I'm saying, I've been struggling, this shit never impacted my life, and this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. I can hear that argument, and I can respect that argument. But this is different. And it's just interesting that you have people who will say, like, we just watched the thing the other day, and she's like, my heart bleeds for such and such. And it's like, those are just words, yo. You can't be believing what you're saying. Right? If we had hard stances and more people were like what we just talked about a few minutes ago, in my opinion, about being Black and white, you had sex with 12-year-olds on an island, you go. You're done.
Yeah.
You, at the bare minimum, you lose your job. And then whatever else happens from that, like those are different processes. But at the bare minimum, you lose your job. Imagine anyone listening, whether you work at the MBTA, at City Hall, at fucking Beth Israel, or at Uno's. Imagine if your boss was going to the nearby middle school and fondling little girls, and everyone in the company knew about it.
Yeah.
How would that fly?
Yeah. Well,
so,
the same way it flew, when uncles or cousins and friends was doing it to the children,
Yes and
right?
no, Leah. I think
Like
it's
everything
an
is
isolation of the
everything
family,
is kept.
keeping that in the nucleus versus
But
a
why is it
person.
different? Because it's somebody now. Here's
Yeah,
the
I guess
thing.
so. I guess so.
Somebody,
Yeah.
somebody is either way. Okay, so I no need to me to argue that since you've conceded.
Well,
Perfect.
I'll concede, but I guess with an asterisk because it is confined in that nucleus. And the goal is to keep it confined. So then you start getting, don't air our dirty laundry, don't talk about family business and perfect. But the moment your neighbors and then other neighbors and other neighbors knew, I don't know what that changed, but the goal was
Nothing.
to not, but the goal was always to not have others know. That is the goal of confinement. But if everyone knows, it's a pressure of now you got to do something about it. Now every floor in this building knows that you are a pedophile. Now, what are you going to do about it? The secret's out. And if you're like, well, the secret's out, but I mean, it's unfortunate. What the fuck are you talking about? It's unfortunate. What are you going to do about it? And so for me, and I'll go into the topic. For me,
Oh, we didn't get there yet. Okay.
yeah, for me, it's just very interesting for all these tones and precedences to be set, and all the work that you know, um, peace organizations and nonviolent practice organizations and rape crisis and sexual abuse and all these things that people are doing every single day and all the efforts that they're doing to try to combat this thing that permeates our society and will permeate for a million years after. But all the work they're doing is completely being ripped up and undermined on a national scale. So, so the topic is balance of world events and respecting partners' tolerance, because this came up with you and I, where I was watching, there's certain things that I like to watch. So, Native Land, and there's a bias, obviously, but I genuinely am a fan of them and a supporter of them, and it just makes it, cherry on top that like I did the theme song behind it.
Welcome home to the Native, landing on the podcast space.
Right. So that's just whatever. So Native Land, higher learning. I watch clips of Abby Phillips on CNN when she has different people on. Joe Budden, and I think to his credit, which I appreciate, he's utilizing Mark in a different way now, which I think again is intentional. Because why would you not do that? And it's putting the medicine in the candy.
Yeah.
Talking about 50 Cent, and then you go right into Iraq, right? But for me, I find community in watching these things where I'm agreeing with these folks who are laying out the facts and they're not contorting what's happening and that I'm seeing, because I'm tired of every day seeing that something is red and someone's telling me that it's purple. So for me, it's comfort in that. And so I watch it. And then I can absolutely, after watching it, have adult ministry time. You, not so much. And so I wanted you to speak to your feelings, because I'm sure that you're not alone in it, and whether it's the man or the woman, or if it's the same sex couple, I'm sure that there's relationships where a person can maybe OD on world events and current affairs and all that stuff, and the other person's like, really, like, again, enough, cut this off. So what do you feel about that?
Personally, I'm not I don't watch the news. and I have stopped watching it, long ago. However, I'll see clips, I can take bits and doses, and I don't mind watching something or hearing something to stay abreast, of what's happening in the world. However, I don't need it every day, multiple times a day, and 4 hours on end. And I especially don't need it in the bedroom when it's time to, be intimate with my partner. There's nothing about hearing the orange man's name and what he's doing and how it's affecting all of us that gets my pussy wet.
My God, Leah.
I'm sorry. You can take that out.
Huh.
There's
Pun
nothing
intended.
there's nothing about any of those things that that turns me on, that has me interested in being intimate. And so, that's just my stance, like it's just a bunch of sadness, it's a bunch of confusion, it's a bunch of just bullshit, if I may say so. And if anything, it just, increases, the anxiety, because even when there are solutions that are shared, they don't seem feasible. And if they are feasible, they don't have much of an impact because people are so upside down, right? And so for me, that just feels like a whole lot of negativeness, right? Negativity, excuse me. That feels like a whole lot of negativity. And I don't like that. Negative energy just does the complete opposite of what it needs to do during that time.
But I guess to that point, is it differently if you are, because with your rationale, right? Like, do you want to, and we're not talking about the news, right? Because the news is like, someone just fell off a building. A car just fell in a sinkhole.
Yeah.
Blah, blah,
Oh, well, no,
blah.
I
Kid
mean,
just
and
got
this,
shot in the face. But like, when you're cooking, right? Like, is there a time to listen to Abby Phillips and have a panel? When you're in a car driving on an hour drive, is there time to, like, so when
of course, I'm saying to you that if there's no problem, like I think that it is good for folks to be able to receive the message, right, of what's happening in the world. However, it should not be, a 4 hour run of it. Now, but that's for me. And so, I might see something on, for example, I'll give you an example. If something comes across, if I'm on, one of the social media platforms, and something comes across my page or whatever, I'll see it, and then I will then go like try to find more information about it, right? And now I'm deep diving in a rabbit hole. However, but I now know I now know what is happening, right? At that point, I've had my fill, right? And then, for example, you then come home and now you want to watch all the things back to back. My cup has been runneth over, and not in a great way. And so I'm not saying to just be, blinded or go be ignorant to the things, right? Of course you should know what's happening in the world around you, whether you feel like you can do something or have a say in something or not. But for me, there is there is something I would consider as overconsumption. And I hear you. I understand, like, you want to be within community, and feel like you're in community, and and also stay abreast of worldly happenings. And that's okay. That's okay too. But I think that it's important for anyone out there whose partner is similar to me, that you guys have a check-in, and not just assume because they're quiet, like they're okay with you know the overconsumption. I think there should be a fine balance with that too, right? Like, it's not that I hate, I can't stand to watch or listen to the things. It's like, yo, where you at today? Some this is what's happening on here, and I want to catch up with that, whatever. But if you putting on pod after pod after pod after pod, dog, what are we doing?
And
You do.
no, Lee, that's not true.
So you do. But then the other thing is that here's the other piece, right? And we want to talk, I'm going to bring up love language. Is like, if we're talking about like someone's love language is quality time, like for me, quality time,
That's the best quality time. You're being well informed with your love and making sure that like everyone's.
for me, quality time is not just like sitting in the same room being quiet. It's not quality time. Like, quality time is conversing, interacting, possibly touching, right? Like,
reacting together. Like, what the fuck is happening? This is
no,
crazy.
no, I don't need, I want to feel that, but I don't need to say that.
Leah, are you a fucking cat in heat? Huh?
Anyway.
But I think it it wasn't until you brought that up. You brought that up with the doctor, right?
Yeah.
So I think, right?
Yes, I brought that up with my therapist. Thank you very much.
No, with our session. I think that's how I received that.
No.
So how
I initially brought it up. I had a revelation, and I brought it up with my therapist, and then I spoke to you about it.
Oh, okay.
And then we talked a little bit about it with our therapist.
Okay. All right. So, and that again is the importance of therapy, because it allows the tools to just process a little differently, and like, just process differently. I won't come up with another way of saying it. But I think for me, what that is doing is providing a sense of community and comfort for me. It's not necessarily making it so I'm enraged when I go to bed, and now I'm frustrated and I'm taking it out on Leah, and it's not that. But to my partner, like, if she's not receiving it that way, and it's actually causing her to be anxious at the expense of me finding community, like, there should be a different approach in that, right? And so I have I don't know how it landed per se, and I've tried to be more intentional about the amount that I actually consume in front of you, and I'll try to like listen when I'm by myself or something, but what my therapist said, which I think was great advice, is like you said, doing a check-in, but like, don't now try to listen to everything on my own and then come home and purposely like keep it from you, because like it's healthy and I need to like get that out, right? But I think what I wanted to mention to you is, and this is just you know, like if you are going down a rabbit hole or something and you're on your timeline doing something, like you don't initiate that conversation with me about what you said found, right? Like you don't spark that. So from my POV, you have no idea about said thing because that's not your go-to, that's not your bag. Like I don't know if you follow Angela Rye or DL Hughley or Don Lemon or CNN or whomever, right? Like you follow, I don't know. So like I don't know. But for me, I would love if you saw something and it was talking about whatever it is, whatever, like you know, due to the shit like the tariffs made it so now you know broccoli's gonna be $9 a pound and blah blah blah, right? And you like started that conversation of like, oh shit, like that would be dope to me. But you don't. But because once you get it, you then check out from it because you're now done with it. You don't think to spark it up with me. But at the same time, when I'm watching a podcast and they bring up said thing about broccoli, I know that we both like broccoli. So for me, I'm like, oh shit, I want to make sure Leah hears this. So that's happening in real time too. So, you know, but anyway.
Also, I don't necessarily need a pod to have that conversation, right? Like,
But that's how sometimes I'll get it because
no.
I'm not watching the news.
I'm saying like you'll get it off a pod and then you'll rewatch it just so that you can show me.
Yeah.
However, I don't necessarily need to see, because the other thing that you do, and then we can move on. The other thing that you do is like you'll put a pod on, you'll put it to that specific thing, and it's just like, okay, well, what about? And then you turn it off, and it's like, what? Like, well, what else happened? What else are they talking about? Like, don't just put that on.
Because you like it too.
And or like you'll
fast forward to the specific part.
So whatever. Yeah. You'll whatever. So you'll do that, but and so like that's also frustrating to me. But it's not like it's frustrating in a sense of like, yo, just let it rock at this point. You know what I mean? Like don't turn it off and then jump to something else,
You're good for that. It made me think of something else, and I'm not going to bring it up on the show.
But I'm good for
you
what?
Are definitely good for seeing we're here now. Let's just go. You're definitely like, you are good for that, yo. You are so good for that. And I wish
get it
that
from the best, but let's go.
I'm not that way.
I'm
definitely not that way.
My guy, you just did it.
What?
It's okay. Let's go.
Let's go to what?
Let's go.
No. All right. Well, we've already taken up the whatever, so we're gonna.
Okay.
I will say, so let me ask you, I guess. Well,
go ahead.
Let me ask you this, and then I want to state it because I feel like we talked about this a long time ago. Part of me feels
that's not a question. You're stating what you're going to state.
Yeah, I'm doing what other people.
So
do
ask the question.
Like. But I'm gonna preface it.
I want you to ask the question. I don't like just get right to it. That's where I'm at in my life.
Do you prefer to not address anything that's happening in commentary with world events in any sort of way with this show? Or do you want to sprinkle it in every so often or completely stay away from?
Oh, you're referring to what, Locked and Loaded?
Yes.
I feel like there's so much news out there, but already, and it's, I don't want to say it's oversaturated. If it is relatable to us, I feel like I don't mind talking about it. But I also don't mind sprinkling in a little bit of things that are also not relatable to us. But sprinkling, right? Like I wouldn't want every episode to start with, hey guys, the world is being bombed today. Like, no, I don't know.
No.
No.
All right. Well, so we'll communicate and have our healthy balance and figure out like a nice sweet spot. Pun intended.
Yeah, those are really nice.
Jesus. And so as we're closing, because I just think that this comes into a conversation also, and I just don't want to continue this like on the next show.
Mm-hmm.
The recent election with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she lost to
Mm-hmm.
James Talarico.
Mm-hmm.
The comments that people are saying, for me, I want to ask you, for me as a black man today, I just hear things a little differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so similarly with Jasmine Crockett, as I heard with Kamala Harris,
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thing with like black women and leadership. And I also hate when people just kind of blanket it as that, because I think it's very, very layered, and we rarely like pull the onion, the peels back. But what do you feel as a black woman that doesn't have aspirations in politics, but certainly is aspirational in life, as being, an entrepreneur, as being a mother, as growing as a woman in her own autonomy? Like, does any of that bother you when you see the rhetoric surrounding yet again a defeat?
So I guess one, I feel like that's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah.
And I guess I will challenge you to and ask you specifically, how do you feel about being quote unquote led by a black woman?
I'm okay with it.
To which degree?
I don't think I have limitations.
Okay.
You mean you don't believe me, or you're just taking my answer?
No, I'm receiving it.
Oh.
I
think that gets to the crux of, like, one, there's some men that just don't like women. I think we're both clear on that.
Absolutely.
And I think that there are people who just feel like women cannot lead.
Absolutely.
And so, it's different if you are the sole breadwinner and I am the stay-at-home husband and dad, right? Even within that dynamic, which is very, very loaded and tiered, for me, I think there's a way in which both people have to have the security to make that work, because it's against the societal imagery and confinements that's put out and promoted, right? It's taking the social norms and flipping it on its head. And so I could be the best stay-at-home dad ever, right? And when you come home, dinner's cooked and dishes are washed and the kids are fed and all those things, right? And you are taking care of everything else and paying the bills and blah, blah, blah. Now, for me, what's consistent, but it just happens more and it's more acceptable, it's I have a consistent message of, if you are the breadwinner and I am a stay-at-home dad, and you come home and you are belittling me and putting out and chipping at, possibly my manhood, and making me feel less than because I am not the one that's the provider, right? And because I'm not providing, monetarily, I'm no longer able to be the protector also. Now, the same way as if a man is the sole breadwinner and making his wife or making his partner feel less than because she is not going out in a capitalistic system and bringing home whatever. You're devaluing what she's doing at home. I think both are problematic.
Absolutely.
But for men and our ego and machismo, I think it hits different when you come home and you're like, yo, get the fuck over there and pick stuff up, bum ass nigga, blah 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 blah. Like that's wild, right? And then that's when it becomes, it's weird. And a lot of guys who I know and love who are very progressive, I don't know if they are able to take a back seat and have their woman be the face and be the breadwinner. You know what I mean? And you have to be comfortable with that. People make fun of Stedman to this day. There's a certain comfort that you have to have, or an understanding. I don't know what they do, and I don't know what that is. But you have to be comfortable knowing that she's the one and you are the support. And, you know.
But I think that it doesn't mean that, you know, she's the one because she's front facing and, you know, referring to Oprah. She's the one because she's front facing and she's making her money front facing. And it is all public, right? Clearly they were running in the same circles at some point. That's how they met. I don't know their history.
Yeah, he's a successful businessman.
Right?
He's just, yeah.
And so, but his stuff is just, you know, more private and everybody just assumes what they assume. For me, I feel like in a partnership, and we kind of got away from this, but I'll bring it back. In a partnership, there's not one person that leads everything in every role in that relationship.
Sure.
Right? And so, hey, if this is your strong suit, lead here. If this is not your strong suit, let your partner take the lead in that. Right? And then there are things that you both can do together to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. I feel like with Crockett, Kamala, these are also big front-facing roles that are particularly dominated by the male species. And because of that, it is hard for not only men in general, but Black men to see any value in what they bring and how they can bring it. You know, for me, like Jasmine Crockett, she's definitely more relatable to us, but also the younger generation, just because of how passionate she speaks, right? But for some, a lot, they take her approach as ghetto and uninformed.
Well,
yeah. What do you say?
Well, I was gonna say abrasive, but absolutely what you said, ghetto, and just it gets thrown around.
That absolutely gets thrown around.
And for me, that's definitely offensive.
Right? But
yeah.
And so because of that, you know, they feel like, I'm assuming it's felt as though she's like this is the way she's going to do politics and policies for the rest of her life. Yeah. Right? Which
we're past all that.
We don't know, but and guess what? So what? Because look at what's happening right now with the person that is so-called in charge.
Yeah, we're past that. So I don't you talk about black and white, like I don't want to have those conversations with people.
You know,
like they're not genuine conversations. They're not coming from an earnest place.
I think the rhetoric that surrounds, Black men causing or is the reason why the loss was the loss for both and both women is partly in due to something that you said earlier, in regards to protecting, right? There are a lot of Black men who have completely gone against publicly these two women for their own reasons, but none of it is due to policy or
their record.
policy record, but more just their knowledge, their education, you know what I'm saying, their experience. None of those things were challenged for real. It's more of, the basic bullshit. Oh, she's married to a white guy. She doesn't have any kids of her own. She has 50-inch eyelashes and 100-inch bust down. Like,
what?
Sorry,
that's the lashes.
That's hair. And I'm exaggerating on I'm exaggerating on the number, but the point is that the focus is like completely off, right? But instead of not falling for the rhetoric and falling into the rhetoric, you're jumping in and you are constantly bashing.
But they don't see it that way.
The men. The men don't see it that way.
Yeah, they don't see it that way.
Right.
But that's
why I think that there's a big narrative around, the loss is due to Black men not supporting Black women, right? But when we say support, we're not just talking about upholding, we're talking about protecting as well. And it's not it doesn't, and I we can get into this at another time, but like the protecting is not always a physical thing, right? It's also a mental and emotional thing, right? But like, whatever you do, don't jump in and side with the rest of them against me, because you're ultimately doing it against us.
That's interesting. And I'm saying it's interesting because I think the protecting part is something that
most men struggle with. Absolutely.
Why you gotta say it that way?
Which way?
So if I can go back and like erase your Diddyism, right? And you take that moment, I think the protecting, it looks a certain way and it's just more nuanced. And so if either the conversations were happening in a more open, vulnerable, transparent way, and then the men were open and vulnerable to hearing it, I think that could eventually course correct itself.
So I do find it very interesting, right? And so, like, as a father, let me ask you, if your child came home and said somebody at school was doing this to me, how would you handle that? Would you just say, oh, don't worry about it, just go to school? Or like, oh, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal, you know what I mean? Or would you say, give me a name, give me a time, and then proceed to contact the school, or make first contact with the teacher, and then if your child then comes home again and says the same thing, and you've known that you've contacted the teacher, like what steps would you take to protect your child, your young Black daughter?
Well, so, and we'll end on this part, right? The maturity is you don't use how you were brought up and what you've seen growing up in the environment and all that stuff as a default for any poor decision you make, right? So the old would be Who is it? What they look like? I'm coming up there. When I get there, point them out, right? It's a matter of now, so you set, time, get all the information and the data and the facts, and then you report it to the folks who are supposed to be in charge and are supposed to maintain decorum and maintain a decency and civility, right? And so you do said thing, and then hopefully those resources do their job then, and don't just believe you, right? They need to investigate and they need whatever, right? Let the process play out. But as a parent, you are the advocate for your child. So you are advocating for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. Then once that gets exhausted, hopefully
There's some resolve.
resolve in some way. Even if it's just simply, hey, you guys clearly are not getting along and I need you to stay away from each other going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or whatever, right? Or maybe it's a mediation and then it's a misunderstanding. It was all misunderstanding.
The point is that you would try to remedy the problem as opposed to adding on to the problem, right? You're going to go into protection mode to remedy the problem, which is by taking those steps to do that.
But I would do that if it wasn't my daughter.
As opposed to,
and that's the problem.
Let's stay there though.
I don't want to.
Let's stay there.
But you want to know?
I want you to stay there so I can make my point.
Make it okay.
As opposed to now piling on, be it your son or your daughter, but we're going to stay on the daughter, piling on, oh, you're just too sensitive. Go ahead, girl, get in that room, go do whatever you need to do, right? But then this thing that's just constantly happening. And because you don't think it's a big deal, or it's just kid stuff or girl stuff, and you want to stay out of it, you stay out of it. That is what I feel like is happening here. Instead of doing something about it, you're just piling on and you're not protecting. Not you per se, but that's why it's spun in the media that way in terms of Black men don't protect. And there are times where I feel like, looking at some situations, being in education and just have been working in social services, right? Like, you can see where the parent has failed the child by not protecting them. And then that just perpetuates. And so those, for me, I feel like those who struggle with that are the results of it perpetuating.
And I guess the only reason I said I didn't want to stay there is because what happened historically and what's happening still to this day is it's all fine and well until it hits your front door. So when it is your daughter, you then do the right thing. You respond, whether the response is good or not, right? There's a response. So if you want to go with the abortion stuff, people are against abortion. Now that your 13-year-old daughter is pregnant, now it's we can't blah blah blah. Right now, abortion's on the table. I think the problem is that we don't take more of a community or world stance for others who are not our daughters and who are not our sisters and who are not our wives. So, the level of which you might jump out the window, I'll use that term, might vary, right? I'm not going to jump out the window for someone on the street who, as I would for you. But I'm not just going to walk by and say, damn, that's fucked up. I'm not going to pull out my phone and record it and upload it on Facebook or upload it on WorldStar. Right? There's a certain hard line for me that I have taken that I just wish that more men would take. And I think, the piling on I think people don't see. It's unfortunate because we're in a time where like engagement is important and it's currency. And so sometimes people don't even believe the shit they're saying and they're just saying stuff. But then the other part of it is, and I think we'll close the show. Van Lathan, I mentioned High Learner earlier. Van Lathan had for me, it was a perfect statement that he made as a black man regarding Jasmine Crockett.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll play it. We'll play it at the end of the show. So it's a short clip, but I think it encapsulates exactly what I feel like and exactly to the point of what you just said, right? But it is being said from him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll play that. So we're gonna close out, and we will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And yeah, you have any final words, or do you want to like wrap this up so you can give me a massage or anything like something like that, or no?
We can definitely wrap this up, and I'll be waiting for you.
What does that mean?
Whatever it means.
I'll be waiting for you. Okay.
Okay.
That's that.
So anyway.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. I don't know what that means. That's not the answer I was looking for. We're gonna talk about direct answers.
But thanks for joining. Until next time.
Leah.
Go ahead.
We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. You know what it is. We're locked and loaded. Yeah.
We're locked and loaded.
You owe Jasmine Crockett, me, a black man, Van Lathan. I'll speak for myself. I owe Jasmine Crockett protection as a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of you guys don't feel like that. I feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
I owe Jasmine Crockett protection as a black woman. If somebody comes at Jasmine Crockett and says that Jasmine Crockett is low IQ or a Shaniqua or any of that stuff, I owe Jasmine Crockett protection. I owe her. I don't owe Jasmine Crockett any protection as a politician. I don't. The only thing you owe a politician is questions. Questions about how they're going to make your life better. And what we're doing is having a lunchroom cafeteria argument that is more fit for who's going to be elected homecoming king than it is for who should be leading in a state as consequential as Texas.
Yeah.
And people's feelings are getting hurt over this, and people are wrapping up their identity and their culture into this. And we're playing symbolic games when the games are not symbolic anymore. The games are actually very real. And to be able to interrogate these candidates based upon policy and the trajectory of their political growth is just way more important than talking about either side, what they feel they were owed.
Wedlocked and loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.